Tonight at 11.
Hey, welcome to the Cutting Room Floor podcast. I'm Alex.
I'm Erik.
So we are going to talk about Batman for the last time. Not really, but for the last time of the 3 podcasts we are doing. So far we've talked about the first 5 movies: Batman 66, Batman 89, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin.
And we've also talked about the Christopher Nolan movies.
Right. So this time we're going to talk about some projects that never got off the ground at first, and then we're going to talk about some stuff that we might see going forward. So let's just I guess dive right into that. So initially, Warner Brothers, for some insane reason, was impressed with the work that they were doing on Batman and Robin, I guess from the dailies. So they had immediately hired Joel Schumacher to do a 5th Batman movie. And it was supposed to be titled Batman Triumphant. I guess the premise of it here is that the Scarecrow Scarecrow was supposed to be the main villain, and then we were going to see Joker flashbacks through fear toxin, and I think that's actually kind of a cool idea. So I just want to point out though that if that's the case, I mentioned in the first podcast that Batman Returns, Forever, and Batman and Robin were all supposed to be the same continuity. There's no indication given otherwise. If this panned out, that ties directly into that. So No excuse for Batman and Robin. So that's kind of interesting though. And I guess Jack Nicholson was supposed to come back as the Joker in these flashbacks.
Interesting.
Yeah. So so the interesting thing though is that Harley Quinn was supposed to be in it. And do you know how she was supposed to be tied into that?
She was Joker's wife or something?
Joker's freaking daughter.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So it kind of ties into what we were mentioning at the end of our first 5 Batmans podcast. That I mentioned that they kind of screwed around with like Barbara Wilson being Batgirl. So in a sense, this is kind of the same thing, changing up. Because that I don't know. I just think Harley Quinn is the girlfriend of the Joker. You don't mess with that.
Yeah. It's pretty straightforward.
So what do you think about that? Like, I don't know.
Having her as his daughter?
Yeah. Because that... Like, you'd have to rewrite the entire origin.
Yeah, you would. That doesn't make sense. She was his psychiatrist.
Right, and she falls in love with it. Like, either it gets really, really creepy, or, I don't know.
Her brain gets addled. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, but, yeah, his daughter... I guess insanity runs in the family, and that,
Right, yeah.
Harleen Napier.
Right.
What?
Yeah, no, that doesn't make any sense either, so...
Weird.
The thing I thought was interesting about this was that I guess Joel Schumacher felt that he owed Batman fans a real Batman movie. Mm-hmm. And I think this was supposed to be an attempt to go back towards the darker, maybe more Burton-y type, thing. But, I don't know. I think it probably would have, not because of who was attached and the way that they were going to take the story, but I do think it would have, even if it was successful, it still would have been, going down that road that I don't know, started veering off of, So, even you could argue back to Batman Returns when they started screwing with character origins. I mean, the Penguin's not who the Penguin in the comics is, so.
Yeah. And apparently also, I guess the Mad Hatter was supposed to be in this as well.
Right. With a similar role as the Riddler. So that kind of, I don't know, doesn't give me confidence because then you're just rehashing a Riddler story.
Yeah.
Which also was kind of rehashed in Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad it wasn't made.
Yeah.
Sorry. So, the next project was Batman Dark Knight, and not to be confused with The Dark Knight. Dark Knight is spelled capital D-A-R, capital K-N-I-G-H-T. So, I don't know how I feel about that title.
Yeah.
The interesting thing...
Dark Knight.
Dark Knight, yeah. Batman Dark Knight. Dark Knight. So, I guess the thing with this is that Batman's given up crime fighting in Dark Knight, and Dick Grayson. So I'm assuming that this is kind of along the same continuity as the Burton Schumacher films from this.
Yeah.
So Dick Grayson's going to Gotham University, and I guess being an acrobat didn't pay off. So
yeah.
So. Anyway, this also uses Dr. Jonathan Crane, who we find out is the Scarecrow, and he works at Arkham Asylum and Gotham University. So, interesting things that that we see carried over into Batman Begins, at least in both of these. With Scarecrow being the villain.
Yeah.
But this included Man-Bat, who eventually starts killing people, and people think it's the return of Batman, so Batman has to come back to clear his name. It doesn't, I think, give any indication as to why he's retired. He just, maybe Mr. Freeze drove him to the point of where he didn't want to just deal with it anymore. So, I don't know. There's just no indication given why. So, I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel the same way about that as Triumphant.
Yeah, it seems like it's just a continuation. From what I'm understanding, it sounds like it's like Batman Triumphant Part 2.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, yeah.
Or same thing with Forever, and not the exact same movie, but
right. I mean, they've got some. I think that you may have seen
sequelitis.
I think you definitely would have seen that with Batman Triumphant. It would have been, it might have been more serious, but I think, based off of the description that's available, I think you honestly would have seen almost everything being, maybe a step-by-step of Batman Forever, Batman and Robin. I don't know. It was supposed to be a different writer, so...
Yeah.
Thank goodness. Yeah, that could have helped. But I don't know. I just think that without, and then maybe there would have been an explanation provided, but without any kind of, indication as to why he hasn't been Batman, I just don't necessarily. I can't get behind that idea as to why he'd be.
Why is he not Batman?
Right. Yeah. I like the idea that Scarecrow was used in both. It's because
he's the recurring villain in both.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, I think. What's funny about these is you see concepts that actually end up being in Batman Begins. So it's kind of cool.
It is cool.
But I think those were the two that were kind of like initially Batman Triumphant was supposed to go down, and then Batman and Robin flopped, basically.
Yeah.
And so they reconsidered, and I think Dark Knight was the immediate successor, and then they just decided not to go with that. So they go with two different proposals. They're going to go with either Batman Year One, because we never got a real origin story, or Batman Beyond. So, did you ever watch Batman Beyond, the cartoon?
I did.
Okay. So, sorry.
Yep. I thought it was pretty cool, actually.
Right.
Because I grew up on the animated series, and I was still a kid. I was in junior high, I think, when the pilot episode for Batman Beyond came out, and I was like, okay, this is actually a pretty cool concept. It's, Bruce Wayne is super old, so he can't take up the cape anymore.
Right.
But he gets a new protege to basically be his character, and Bruce basically takes on the role of Oracle. Right. Which is pretty cool.
Sure. Yeah, I thought that. I saw some of the episodes, but I thought the concept of it at its core was pretty cool. So.
Yeah, I didn't watch it a ton, but I thought it was a pretty cool idea.
Right. Okay. So it's kind of I don't know how well how closely tied that this would have been. I don't think that there's too much information known about the Batman Begins concept. I just think that they were just gonna. It was one of the things that they threw out there to see if it would stick, and I think one of the only things that is really known is that I think they were talking about Clint Eastwood being Bruce Wayne, which is kind of cool because he's kind of that curmudgeon-y kind of guy that Bruce Wayne is. No offense to Clint Eastwood, unless he starts yelling at your chair. I'm just kidding. Sorry. So. The other concept was Batman Year One, which Joel Schumacher actually kind of proposed, and I think at that point they said thanks, but no thanks. Yeah. But
and they actually have it out now in animated form.
Right. So it was supposed to be an adaptation of that, and let's see. So this is where it gets fun. They hired Darren Aronofsky to write it and direct, apparently. And even though Schumacher expressed interest, so Aronofsky contacted Frank Miller to work with him on the script. Have you heard anything about this one before?
No, but the fact that you're going to the author of the comic, that's good. Good to be faithful to the source material.
Get ready for this, then.
Okay.
So. They actually changed just about everything.
Really?
Bruce... So Alfred isn't Alfred. He ends up, if I'm remembering this right, he ends up, living... After his parents get killed, he meets up with these mechanics. And there's Big Al and Little Al. Alfred. And he ends up, basically living and working out of there. So they build this prototype Batmobile there. Anyway, the script is hard R. Just brutally violent. They basically wrote it in a way that they would get paid for it, but it would never get filmed. So they turned it into Warner's, and Warner's was like, are you freaking kidding? I mean, I don't think that there was any way that they could have toned it, down and written the same story. Mm-hmm. So, it was, I don't know what they were thinking, why they would have done this. But it's just, I don't know. Because Batman is way too lucrative of a property, no matter what, you just... I honestly don't ever foresee a day when there's an R-rated Batman movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't see it happening.
The closest we may ever get is The Dark Knight. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. It just seems kind of silly, but, they changed the origin. I think Little Al was supposed to become Robin. I mean, it just seemed
That's
really
bizarre.
Yeah, it kind of like we were saying with with Batman and Robin, with like Barbara Wilson becoming Batgirl. You know, it's like it's just you're tweaking stuff that doesn't need to be tweaked.
Yeah.
One of the things that you know, I think they talked about with Batman Begins was like that. You know, comics and film are totally separate mediums, so you know, in regards to adapting it, you have to change some things.
Yeah.
Like the changes that they did in Batman Begins works and it makes sense. Like these are just changes that are being made just to screw with what you're working on, you know. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm glad it never got made. I the only way I can imagine maybe things being worse off than Batman and Robin would be to do that.
Yeah.
And maybe not. I mean, like I never would have watched it. Maybe not that they didn't have like interesting concepts there, but it's just it's not Batman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So I guess the last, at least the last known one that was proposed was Batman versus Superman. So,
which I actually first even heard about this. I thought it was a complete joke. In the movie I Am Legend, Robert Neville is driving around in New York, and there is a poster. It has the bat symbol, and above the bat symbol it has the Superman S.
Right.
And everyone just chuckled in the theater like, oh, what's that?
Right.
Oh, that's funny.
I thought it was an announcement some people did or something.
Yeah, coming in... Well,
I think it was supposed to be like 2012 or maybe 2013 or something like that.
Yeah, like 2013 or something. Yeah, and it's like... So I thought that was just pretty funny, but yeah. So I didn't know that this is an idea that already had...
okay. Yeah.
Been thought up. That's the first time I ever heard of it was in a movie that came out in like... What was it, 07, 08?
It would have been
07.
2007 because they had the Dark Knight preview.
Yeah.
Or prologue or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. First time I ever went to an IMAX movie, and it was for that.
Awesome.
Yeah, so, I mean, it sounds like they know each other, but, you know, Bruce is supposed to get married, and then the Joker... So this sounds like it's a different kind of continuity, because the Joker is there, and he kills Bruce Wayne's new wife, and he has to go out for revenge, and Superman tries to stop him, and find out Lex Luthor was behind all of it, and I don't know.
Interesting.
It seems... I guess the problem is that it already would assume that you know these characters and their
so well
relationship.
And their relation, which they, you know, if you've read comics, yeah, sure,
right, yeah. Maybe if you know the animated series, you might have a grasp on it.
But. But if you don't, either the animated series, but it's like if you don't know anything, it's like
you just
you'll be lost.
Yeah, it makes no sense. So, I don't know. I mean, it seems like a cool concept. It probably would have been enjoyable, at least. At the very least, I think it would have been fun.
It would have been a fun movie.
But, I don't know. I just don't think it would have taken off in the sense of what came next. So but there's some interesting things there that whether Nolan meant to or not got carried over. I mean, you kind of got year one, or at least
in the opening,
the seeds of it Begins.
In the first act of Begins,
right? Well, and not even that, just him starting. I mean, the whole he starts taking down mob bosses and all of that. So and then you get Scarecrow and all of that. So it's kind of cool. So I'm sure that they I can't imagine that they wouldn't have had access to the scripts of stuff that was proposed before. I don't know. So you know of another one that I did not know about.
I didn't. I read this online a couple months back. It was around the time Dark Knight Rises came out. Apparently Joss Whedon, yes, that Joss Whedon of Buffy, Angel, Firefly, Avengers. Apparently he had a Batman movie pitch. And basically what he does is it's almost sort of a Batman Begins type story that Bruce Wayne has lost his parents and he's got to try and move on and find what he wants to do in his life. And in this article, it says that Whedon describes the moment of a young Wayne realizes he can actually help people, and then it quotes Whedon referring to Bruce Wayne. And he's like this 12-year-old who gets the crap kicked out of him, Whedon said. And then it cuts to Wayne Manor. Alfred is running like something terrible has happened. He finds Bruce. He gets back from the fight. He's completely fine. Bruce says that I stopped them. I can stop them. That was the moment for me when he goes, oh, wait a minute. I can actually do something about this. The moment that he gets that purpose instead of just sort of being overwhelmed with the grief of his parents' death. So, it's, very much, he wanted to tell the origin story of Bruce Wayne, which up until before Batman Begins, you didn't get that.
Right. The most you got was the murder of the parents.
Murder of the parents in Crime Alley. That's as far as you got. Right. So he wanted to do a whole Batman Begins type thing.
Cool.
Which unfortunately never happened because Chris Nolan.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm glad.
I'm glad too. I'm
very satisfied with Batman Begins, but
it would have been interesting to see what we.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think. I have not watched too much of his stuff. Firefly is the one that I watched, and from that and from what I've heard people say about Avengers, and I've not watched that yet. I just rented it, so
okay.
We'll have to see. So at the point that this is aired, I'll have watched it. Yeah. But like he's good at handling like large casts of characters, but at the same time, that sounds kind of interesting as to what he might do because, year one story, you don't have that many characters that Batman really should interact with.
Yeah.
At least on a level of where you'd have a large cast coming together. So
yeah.
It sounds interesting, though.
Sounds interesting, but I agree with you. I'm glad Christopher Nolan made Batman Begins.
Though, you never know what might happen. Maybe I had heard about that, and maybe he said he wanted to maybe try and pitch it as a comic sometime. I don't know, something. But, it might be cool to see sometime, so.
Yeah.
You never know. I mean, never say never, right? So,
yep, exactly.
Who knows what will come about, so. But yeah, some interesting concepts that were kind of thrown around. What have you heard about going forward? Like, what do you think? I guess is what we want to talk about for a little bit.
I honestly think that Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy should be left alone.
Right.
Completely. Do not tie into it. Right. In any way. It has been bookend.
Right.
Leave it alone.
I agree.
That was his take. It was his idea,
Yeah, well, and when you make a studio $2 billion plus between, 3 films, I think that they should kind of respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to even mention Inception, which was almost another $1 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, between 4 movies, he basically made them $3 billion. So,
yeah.
If they can't respect, and we've got Man of Steel coming out in the summer that he's attached to.
Yeah.
They should respect that, I think.
Yeah. So. I do think, though, it would be kind of interesting if they, when they reboot this character. I think what they should do is do something almost similar to, like, the Batman Arkham City or Batman
completely agree.
Arkham Asylum. More comic booky,
right?
But still have that mature Batman feel.
Okay, so I want to jump into that in a few minutes. I guess I don't know what to think about it, because they're basically pushing Justice League now.
Yes, they are.
And so, and as a direct result of the Avengers. So, I don't know if they're just going to... I mean, we don't ever need to have another origin story.
No.
I mean...
We don't.
You don't. You can have Batman just be established. You can make it maybe early in his career, you know...
Or like in 89. He's already Batman.
Right, yeah. I mean... And at that point, we don't know how long he'd been Batman. You know, in 89.
I think in 89 they mentioned Knox mentioned like, oh, he's been around for a couple months now or something.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, you know, you can have it at any point. He just needs to be established. You don't need to go through the whole training again, or necessarily the parents' murder. You don't need to go through all that, other than maybe quick flashbacks.
Yeah, quick flashbacks.
But so I mean, I think you can introduce him in a Justice League movie, and have it not really be a big deal. One of the weirder concepts I've heard about, and I don't know how I feel about this, is that you basically have two versions of Batman going on at the same time. You have a Justice League version, and you have a solo franchise version.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah,
and I don't know. Do you think that would work?
I think for the average moviegoer, they might be a little confused.
Right.
Why are there two different actors portraying the same character?
Because they almost did it.
Yeah. In fact, I heard in the rumor mill that Joseph Gordon-Levitt may play Batman.
Right. No, but I mean, they almost did it when Nolan's movies were going on. Did you ever hear about that?
No, I did not.
So it was like scheduled. Like they were going to start filming in Australia. Armie Hammer had been cast as Batman.
Okay.
I mean, this was like sometime in the break between the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Rises.
Uh-huh.
And like costumes had been designed. I think there had been, you know, fittings, everything. And I think actually it was in that time frame when no one knew if Nolan was going to come back.
Yeah.
And so I think that may have been why they dropped it.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting the feeling that he said, you guys do that, then I'm done. Like, I'm walking away from this, and, you know, good luck. You know?
Good luck, yeah.
So they scrapped it, but they almost did it. They almost had two versions going on at the same time. So
I don't have a huge problem with it, but like I said, for the average person, they might be like, why isn't so-and-so?
Right.
You know.
You know, and there's a guy from a site that I won't name, because I really don't like it, but there's been mention of like, now I just sound like a jerk, but like motion capture, like for Justice League might work. So you can have them, that would set a very different tone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to like a live action solo franchise.
So it would be like a CGI or possibly even animated.
Right, yeah, or even just like more maybe stylized than like Avatar motion capture.
Oh, okay,
or like Gollum motion capture. But you know, you'd have the actors, you know, portraying the characters on set, and then you know, which I think is actually an interesting idea. That might be kind of cool.
Yeah,
but I think. But then at the same time, you also don't want to, like, the goal of a Justice League movie is to kind of, like, introduce characters and then spin off into their own deal. So, yeah, you'll probably have Justice League, and then you'll have Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman and Green Lantern and whoever else.
Yeah.
You know, at that point, you're already having an oversaturated market. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I can also see where...
Not counting the Marvel stuff, too.
Right, yeah, that's just counting DC. That's a lot of superhero movies to throw out there, you know.
Yeah.
So I kind of can see where that might backfire in a way.
Yeah.
So...
Well, I mean, there was also the issue with Green Lantern.
Right.
You and I actually liked that movie, but...
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the greatest thing that was ever put on film. But
it was entertaining.
Yeah, it was entertaining. And
a lot of people did not like it.
Yeah, and maybe I just had low expectations, but I mean, I walked out of there going, it was fun, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
anyway. But
anyways,
I just think I think that whatever comes, the Justice League and next Batman movies will be interconnected somehow. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
It will be interesting.
So things that we'd like to see, though. I guess you'd like to see more Arkham City, Arkham Asylum style.
Yeah.
That's actually exactly what I want to see. you know what's funny is, like, you know, I mean, granted, people are going to be interested no matter what, and Nolan has left some huge shoes to fill.
Oh, yes.
But, you know, I just keep thinking, well, okay, if you want to, you're like, oh, well, how are they going to do it? Who are they going to get? I think if you honestly want, like, to just kind of calm some of those fears, at least of, like, the fans that are going to go see it no matter what, get Paul Dini to write it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if they just said that, oh, yeah, he's writing it, can you imagine how quickly, like, people would just be like, oh, well, that's smart. You know?
The guy who created the animated series.
Right, wrote the two of the best-selling comic book, not even just comic book games, but most revered games in the last few years.
Yeah.
You know? And on the merits of, these are good stories. They're not just go around and beat guys up. They're stories, you know, first and foremost.
Yeah, they're a story first and...
A game second, almost, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I just think... I would love to see what he could do with that. And maybe not make it, like, directly the Arkham universe, but...
Yeah.
I mean, he knows the characters. I mean, I think he's written some comics, too, so it's not like... Like, he knows the characters from different mediums. He's done his own spin on them. Just seems like a smart move, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. What else would you like to see?
I think it'd be interesting to... You know, I know a lot of... Robin gets a lot of bad rap, but I wouldn't mind seeing... We've had this discussion before, that, like, if they introduce Robin... Basically make him, if he is, you know, like a 10-year-old kid.
Right.
For the first movie, he doesn't do anything.
Right. I think you just get, like, his parents killed.
Yeah.
And he's got motivation.
He's got motivation. Maybe he helps out a little bit at the end.
Right.
Second film is him training. Maybe he starts going out.
Right.
Third film, if it's a trilogy, you know, it's the... Now they're together and they're... So I think that'd be cool to see him.
Can I jump in on that real quick?
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what I think. I would love to see, you know, a Dick Grayson origin, you know, in the first film. And yeah, maybe like at the end have him find out, like, oh, this is why Bruce Wayne is gone all the time.
Yeah.
And tell him, like, I want in, you know. And I think it should be kind of like that kind of thing where, like, his parents' killer, like, gets away, you know? And then second film and even...
He has to confront that killer in the second film.
Right, and even let it be, like real time, you know? Like, if these movies are made 3 years apart, then, you know, the next movie's 3 years later. So that you have credibility as, like, okay, yeah, this kid can fight now. You know, and maybe have him find his parents' killer. Maybe have that be, like, his first time as Robin, you know.
Yeah.
Let that be his test of whether, do I kill this guy or do I, you know, take him in and let justice be served.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, in the third film, you've got a Batman and Robin team, but you have a very credible Robin that explains why, you know, if he's 10 in the first movie, okay, well, now he's 16. You know, you don't have crazy child endangerment issues, and you also don't have a guy that's maybe 18 at best, but looks like he's maybe in his early 20s. You know, it's a very credible situation to where you could logically explain why this kid is out there and why he's, you know, doing what he's doing, and you could even, you know, if you're real timing it, then, you know, he's been Robin for a couple of years at this point, and you know, you can buy that he'd go toe to toe with Two-Face or with Joker. I think that would be cool. So
yeah.
Any other thoughts on that?
As far as heroes, no. I think villains that have not been seen yet, I think... I've always had a fascination with Clayface. I don't know why. I just think that the fact that the guy can shapeshift and basically do whatever he wants. And I also have thought that at least I know there's been like 3 Clayfaces and like
I don't know.
Yeah, there's been like 3 or 4 of them, but like the one that I'm remembering that I learned about the character was in the animated series, of course, and in that one the guy is, he's an actor. He has gets in this really bad car wreck, and so I think it'd just be interesting to see what they could do with that.
Right.
And other villains, I think Mad Hatter would be interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's very similar to... Yeah, he is similar to Riddler in a lot of ways.
Well, you can make it... Well, depending on how you look at him. In the comics, he's kind of like a creepy guy that has an Alice in Wonderland, almost like disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah.
To where it's like, yeah, that could be like really twisted. you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know how much I'd be comfortable watching that on film.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But like you could make him different, definitely.
Yeah.
I think anyway.
As going back to the hero thing, Barbara Gordon being in it might be pushing it, I think, but like...
I think it's the same as Robin, though. You have to find a way to credibly spin it.
Yeah.
And if they started a new franchise, well, when they start a new franchise, I think if they think big picture, like if you did it that way, where you've got Robin getting established, well, maybe like by a 5th movie, you could introduce Batgirl.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have to spin it credibly, though. You have to make sense as to why she wants to go out and fight crime too. So.
Yeah. What about you? What are some...
I was actually going to say Batgirl. I just would like to see her get some justice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not just because I didn't particularly care for Batman and Robin, but just because I just think, we didn't get Batgirl. We got some watered down version. I mean, she has a real history and motivations for wanting to join what up to that point was a boys' club.
Yeah.
And it would be cool to see. I mean, the problem with female superheroes is that they can't find a way to sell them. How many years have they? And they can. What better time, I think, than to try and get some of these female superheroes out there, but they can't find a way to make Wonder Woman work for some insane reason. Like, why has that movie not been made? You know? And it would be, I think it would be cool to, spin off Batgirl into even her own style of movies,
Make like a Birds of Prey type thing.
Kind of, yeah. Like, I think that would be really, really cool. That might even just be cool. Birds of Prey movie.
Yeah. They did it. They did do
the TV show, but then again, they kind of screwed with things and made their own weird kind of version of it. You know.
Yeah.
But I think in that sense that would be kind of cool. I think villain wise, I would like to see, and maybe not even villain-wise, I'd like to see Catwoman have, like, a real role,
Yeah.
Like, let her be, like, while Robin's being trained, like a quasi-partner, Because even in, like the Arkham City game, like, she's got her own agenda, but she also helps out,
Yeah.
And you see some of that in The Dark Knight Rises, but, like, I'd like to actually see her, maybe start out like as like a minor villain, to where she's stealing, but then sees the difference that Batman makes, and let her steal, stuff all she wants, but let her kind of be a partner too.
Yeah,
I think that'd be cool. And then, but villains, I'd like to see Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
Legitimately done.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing too is, like, people have enough of a sense who the Joker is. Start him out in prison. Why not?
Yeah.
Or even do that, like let him be the main villain Batman chases down in a second Batman, new Batman movie. By the time you get to like a fourth movie, bring him back. Let him bring in Harley Quinn. Stuff like, I think that would be really interesting. Other villains, I just I'd like to see
Maxie Zeus.
That might no. I honestly would like to. One of the things I wanted to really see in a third Nolan film would be the Riddler.
Yeah.
Can only imagine how that would have been. I'd like to see
calculating type.
Right? Yeah. Not one that's getting smart by stealing your brainwaves. No, I would honestly like to see a real legitimate, like, creepy smart guy that leaves creepy freaking clues around.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd love to see that kind of take on it. So yeah, I think that's. I mean, yeah, he's been done before, but
yeah, Two-Face was done before too.
Right? Yeah, exactly. There were stuff done right this time around.
I know.
I'd like to maybe see Two-Face again, but not for a while. I think.
Yeah.
The Joker is going to be the same problem.
Yeah.
People are going to always, compare it to Heath Ledger's, unjustly in some regards, I think.
Yeah.
Because they've got to do something different with it. But that's just what I think. I'd like to see some takes on those characters.
Yeah.
You can always argue about, like, Batman should be a loner, and maybe he shouldn't have this whole cast of supporting, superheroes. But I think if you do it right, it would be interesting. So
yeah.
And we kind of saw in The Dark Knight how his influence goes into these other people, to where they're copycat Batman. But it would be cool, I think, if you see people like Huntress and Black Canary, going, hey, if he can do it, why can't I? And introduce these side characters that are definitely tied in, and that maybe start off as thorns in his side, and you don't have like these official partnerships with them, but they have their own merit and can kind of exist in this same world. So that's what I think.
Nice.
So
cool.
Anything else you want to add?
Not at the moment. Can't think of anything.
Cool. So I think. So we're recording this the same night that we did the original Batman movies podcast. So we haven't done the Nolan films yet, recording wise. But I'm pretty sure this is the shortest podcast we've done so far, because I think we're going to talk a lot about that.
Yes.
But anyway, before we go, just want to remind you to feel free to shoot us an email, the Cutting Room Floor Podcast at gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at Cutting Podcast, and then find us on Facebook, facebook.com/the Cutting Room Floor Podcast. We have links on there to where you can find us on Podomatic, on iTunes, and YouTube for all of our past episodes. And I think that's it.
And for next time, we're going to be discussing the Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit.
Oh, yes, that's right. So buckle in. Hey, thanks for listening. We appreciate it. Feel free to shoot us questions, comments, suggestions for what we can talk about, and then we'll see you next time. I'm Alex.
And I'm Eric.
Take care.
If you make yourself more than just a man, if you devote yourself to an ideal, then you become something else entirely. Legend, Mr. Wayne.
That once was is lost, for none now live who remember it.
I will take the ring to Mordor.
By the blood of our people are your lands kept safe.